everybody, it is Sunday morning. I am headed into town. Frugal RV Gal is behind me and getting ready to go in. I'm going in early to get parking and to just chill and be ready for my presentation at the RTR at noon on how being a nomad saved my life. I am so excited to see everyone and just hope that my talk is a contribution to people that can get something out of it and that it might help. Anyway, I don't know when you're going to see this, but it's early Sunday morning. Sun is just now coming up and it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
This is a good a day as any.
Good morning.
How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. I'm speaking today, so I'm headed to the Blue Lot.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, thank you. Appreciate you guys. This was my fourth time to present at the Rubber Tramp Rendezvous, and it is always such an honor and privilege. After my talk, I got to meet with some great people, but I didn't have my phone with me since it was used to record my talk. So if you have any pics and clips of us that day, please go to my website and use the contact form so that I can get a copy of it too. Thank you everyone that made it through and stuck it out with the wind and the cold. At the end of this video, I share my talk in its entirety. I hope you enjoy it.
This morning has a clear light as any. To see the horizon and the far. Excuses were 2 for a penny, but they've all gone out the window of this car. And when
Hi everybody, this is Crafty Traveler. You will see her in the comments. She has been following my channel almost since day one, and we finally got to meet today.
Yes,
Lonnie,
so
this is
glad.
so wonderful.
Oh, Debra, you're wonderful. I love your channel. And even my Snickers dog watches your band.
That's so awesomeness. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
And I love my
Thank
new
you.
sticker from you. Thank
Thank you.
Bandit, do you see your mama? These are the ladies that helped me out today. They are so wonderful. Who else was there, you guys? I'm missing people.
Cheryl, CC, Grace.
Yeah. Grace is here. I got her. Who else am I missing? Who's not here right now?
I was here, but I didn't help any.
Well, Jana always is number one helper.
Oh,
But
yeah.
Bonnie, this is CC. Raise your hand. And Grace. And Barb. And she's like, yeah. And Cheryl, Pup Camper 58. And that was the one and only Frugal RV Gal over there doing a photo bomb. It's Travels with Dottie. They helped me out today and gave me such wonderful support. I love you guys.
Our pleasure. We love you. You're the best.
Today to share my story of how being a nomad saved my life. I'm also today, after I talk and we answer questions, I'm giving away 10 signed copies of my book, and as well as cards and stickers if anybody wants them. I'm giving away 10 signed copies because I have now been on the road for 10 years, and so I thought that that was pretty fitting. You can find me on social media on all platforms. In fact, I started my channel, my YouTube channel, in 2016 because Bob Wells recommended that I do so, and he is the one that helped me set my channel up. Today, too, I want you to know that after RTR, across the street from the Big Tent, I have a booth, but go across the street from Tyson Wells across the street from the Big Tent in Tyson Wells and find me on Road J, booth 22. Also, for you guys today, My Kindle version of this book is free until midnight. I have all my books in Kindle, Audible, and paperback, but you can get the Kindle version free today until midnight. So grab your Kindle, free version of the Kindle, and good luck on winning the paperback book today. So I have been a full-time nomad since 2015, and I was very lucky and very blessed to be able to travel with Bob Wells in my first year. This is my third time speaking at the RTR on the main stage, plus I did a virtual online class for the 2021 RTR. It is always a privilege and an honor to be here. Today I'm going to take you through my journey of a personal transformation. I realize that saying being a nomad saved my life is a very strong statement, and many are doubtful when they hear that. But I hope after you listen to my story today that you understand how true it is. It not only, okay, I'm going to have to do something about the hair. It not only saved my life, y'all hang on. The wind is crazy today, and I appreciate y'all being out here in the wind and the cold. Thank y'all so much. I'm so glad you're here. Okay. So being a nomad not only saved my life, it made my life more meaningful, and it gave me a better life, and I believe made me a better person. I have a traumatic brain injury, a TBI, and the fact that I am here today, I'm upright, I'm coherent, I'm not drooling, is a miracle, and I am very grateful for it. There are many that I was in TBI rehab with that will never walk again, or feed themselves, and they will have to put eye drops in day and night for the rest of their lives. I can close my eyes and I'm back in that hospital. The sights, the smells, the sounds, the fear, and the unknowing of what was going to happen next. I can go right back there in a heartbeat, and I don't take a single day for granted. I'm aware of my wonderful blessings like this. I'm looking out at you guys, and for me, you guys are beautiful. It is such a wonderful sight, and again, I know it's cold and windy, so thank you for being here. I don't often share how I got my TBI, but I was in the process of adopting my foster son who had Down syndrome. He had an emotional reaction to events that I wasn't aware of, and one evening at home, he just blew, and he beat me unconscious. I was in a coma for 3 days, and it wasn't his fault, and that's why I usually don't tell my story about that part, because I protect him. I was in the hospital for a long time, and in TBI rehab even longer. I was in a wheelchair, and I had this huge, big, thick neck brace that I had to wear, and when they took it off, my head would just kind of fall over, because for like 6-7 months I couldn't even hold my head up. I had those crusty eyes that people after brain surgery and brain injuries have, and they had to put those eye drops in day and night, all night long, and I can still sometimes swear I can taste that liquid. I had to learn how to walk again. It's not that I had a neuromuscular development problem, but my brain wasn't communicating with my body, and it took months for me to learn how to walk. My arm muscles were cramped up and tight. It took 3 months before they could start getting my arms straightened out, and on about the 7th month, when I could use my hands again, that's just a miracle and a blessing I don't ever want to forget. So I know what it's like to be afraid and not know about your future. If you're here today with any uncertainty in your life, I hope that by hearing my talk, you get something out of it that gives you some encouragement. I lost everything, including my son, because I could no longer adopt him. And I spent every dime I had left to make sure that he was taken care of perpetually. I rebuilt my life only for 10 years later to have scar tissue building up on my hippocampus from that brain injury, and I had to have brain surgery. I lost everything again. I had, at that time, a high-dollar, high-profile career. I had my sticks and bricks home that I thought was going to be my nirvana, and my husband left me. But that's where my Nomad story begins. It was a successful surgery, most of the scar tissue they got, but before I went to have that surgery, you guys, I was doing things like crawling underneath my bed and telling people I was letting the dogs out. Or one day my husband came home from work and I was standing in the garage and I had soiled myself. I was catatonic. My legs were shaking because I was kind of paralyzed and standing there for who knows how long. And the stories went on and on and on. And what's really weird is to this day, I don't remember any of that. So obviously I recovered after the surgery, but back then I was nowhere near the person that you see standing in front of you today. Early in 2015, the doctors told me that I might see 2016, but I probably wouldn't know it. They wanted me to go to assisted living, and they wanted me to check into the hospital for at least one night every quarter. At the time, my best friend was my trustee, and she was a trustee. The government won't give me my Social Security check because of my brain injury, and the doctors wouldn't work with me until I had a legal guardian set up, and it was just easier to make someone my trustee. She has since, she's got girls in college and a career that's crazy, and so now another best friend is my trustee. But that continues, that conservatorship continues for me today. So she asked them at the time, what is the testing in the hospital quarterly going to do for her? And the surgeon told her that it would give them a baseline and that they could see if the scar tissue was building back up. My trustee said, I know what it's going to do for you. I'm asking, what will it do for her? The surgeon leaned over, and he had these milky, nasty, mean-looking eyes. And he looked at her, and he glared, and he said, there is nothing we can do for her. She has a brain injury. You guys, my heart fell into my stomach. And I thought then and there my life was over. She took me to lunch and she said, sweetheart, if there ever was a time to do a bucket list, that time is now. You guys should probably know that after my surgery, I lost my driver's license for about 1.5 years, and it took a lot for me to get my driver's license back. My neurologist had to continually test me until he felt like he could send the recommendation letter for reinstatement to the state. When the state approved the application, then I had to see 2 independent doctors that they had assigned to me, and then I had to take a special written exam and then a driving exam. So I promise, people are like, how can you have a brain injury and be out on the road? I promise. I didn't go through all of that, and they didn't make sure that I was safe for nothing. A few years prior to all of that happening, I had bought a 1983 vintage Class B, a Ford Fat Body Brom RV, and she was in mint condition, and I loved her so much. I was in the process of updating her from top to bottom, head to toe, so that I could retire in her and travel in her. I named her Fiona. So I'd always planned to travel, even before this lifestyle became well known. But before my brain surgery, she had an electrical fire, and my dream of traveling the USA in her was dashed. Now I was being told I had to live in assisted living, and my trustee was giving me the opportunity to travel and see as much of this country as I could. I also still had my 2 senior dogs with me, and that meant that they could stay with me a little longer because they can't go into assisted living. And all I could think about was, I'm going to travel. If you read my book, you'll find out that I had a lot of trouble finding a van. And so while I was waiting and trying to find a van, I did things like rent a room from my ex-husband. You can imagine how that went. And then I lived with my sister for a while in a very loving environment, but she has kids and grandkids, and the noise put me in constant TBI episodes with nosebleeds and ear bleeds daily. So what are TBI episodes? Well, every brain injury is different For me, I'm going to go through the list of symptoms that I have to this day if I get episodic with TBI symptoms. Stuttering. If I start stuttering, I know I'm in trouble and I need to vacate the premises. Skipping. I don't mean like skippity-doo-dah. I mean, you remember the vinyl records that would skip, the needle would go across them, and you know, you don't get that sound or anything in between? Well, my brain will do that, and the lights aren't on and nobody's home in between. The toys that we used to play with, you know, you pull back and they go until they hit a wall, and you have to pull them back out and they go until they hit another wall. My brain and my communication will do that today if I'm TBI symptomatic. I just can't get past that wall, and people around me that know and love me help me out, and they pull me off the wall and I go bounce into another one until I'm completely TBI symptomatic free. I also have thermal regulation issues. I was sitting outside this morning with a friend and having coffee, and I allowed myself to get too cold. It is because the hippocampus was damaged during the surgery, and my current diagnosis is hippocampal sclerosis. It wasn't malpractice, it's just a delicate tissue. And so I get too cold really easily, and I get too hot really easily, and it can be very dangerous for me on either side, and I have to watch that. I can become nonverbal. People can be talking to me and asking questions, and I can't respond. It looks a lot like stroke symptoms. I get nosebleeds and ear bleeds still. And what causes my TBI symptoms is what's known in TBI land as flooding. And for me, the major things that cause flooding is generators, ATVs. I can't do them. I have to stay way away from them. So you'll find me camping in deep remote wilderness. I can't do loud noises, nor can I do normal noises for a prolonged period of time. And too much movement also causes TBI episodes for me, and that can be traffic, it can be movement in like a crowd, and so I have to be very careful. But I am so much better today, obviously, and I have learned to be thank you guys, yeah, I celebrate that with you guys. I have learned to be proactive, and I've learned ways to keep my flooding at bay. Here's one. Y'all probably saw me wearing my headset when music was coming out of the speakers and everything, and I wasn't sure if I was going to have to wear them the whole time that I was up here. But this headset, it's not noise canceling, because noise canceling headsets work by opposing frequencies, and I can hear that frequency. It like makes my head want to explode. So these are just, they make, if somebody else puts them on, it makes it to where you can't hear anything. For me, it makes my hearing normal like yours, because another gift from the brain surgery was I have hyperacusis, which means I have like supersonic hearing. My friends laugh because they can't tell secrets around me. So back to my story while I was waiting on trying to get a van. I decided, since the living environments weren't working for me because of the TBI episodes, to live out of my car and in a tent, in state parks, in Texas, in July and August. It was miserable. And the way I got through it was I would go, oh man, y'all are so brave to be here with the wind and the cold. Thank y'all so much. The way I would get through it is to go to the shower house 4 or 5 times a day with my clothes on and get sopping wet, and go back to the tent in the shade in front of a fan. I did that for my dogs too. I would wet down towels and drape them in it, and that's how we survived for a few months until it would get cooler at night. Finally, in September of 2015, I got my van. I gave my tent to my niece and her husband. They still have it. I never want to see it. And I named my van Fancy Free. She had no insulation, bare metal walls, ribs, and a metal floor. But it wasn't a tent, and I was going to get to travel, so to me it was a mansion. Later it got tricked out, complete with solar and everything, thanks to loving individuals in this wonderful community. But at the time, I knew nothing about Bob Wells, boondocking, urban docking, dry docking, stealth camping, any of that stuff that we all know today. I just knew I wasn't in assisted living. Since 2011, since I had planned on retiring and traveling, I had been following blogs like To Simplify, and there was a Canadian woman that traveled in a toy hauler and had her Harley, and there were several blogs, and they don't exist anymore as far as I know. All I knew at the time was I wanted to experience the open road and see as much as I could for as long as I could. My friend Glenn, that ultimately helped me find my van, he told me about Bob Wells. He contacted Bob, he knew him personally, and then he told me, go camp with him. As long as he'll let you stay with him and do what he tells you to do and learn as much as you can. So I took off for Arizona. I had a couple of duffel bags, a yoga mat, and a sleeping bag. That literally was all, and my 2 dogs and their dog bowls. That's all that I had in my van. And I headed out to Arizona to meet this Bob Wells person. It's crazy to me today to think about that. Immediately, I had mishaps. I didn't think about what I was going to do in the middle of the night if I had to go to the bathroom. I plugged fans into my dashboard thinking that I could do that, and I blew my electrical system and had to get that fixed. I spent the night at a Camping World, and I had 2 fans put in my ceiling of my van because all that mattered to me was keeping my dogs cool and healthy and me getting to travel and stay out of assisted living. Along the way, Bob told me I should probably stop and camp with friends of his, LaVon and Linda May. Oh, they're losing their canopy. Linda May went on to star in the blockbuster movie Nomadland, and she wrote the foreword to my book that I'm going to be giving away today. Because of my friendship with Sue Ann Carlson, I was blessed to be an extra on that set, and I just walked around all day pinching myself. I couldn't believe it. But the truth is, life on the road provided many miracles like that for me over these last 10 years. Finally, I met Bob in October of 2015 at a Burger King in Flagstaff. We had lunch. First time we've ever met. We're eating lunch in a public place, and we're talking about how to go to the bathroom, how to cook in your rig, how to stay warm, the most unlikely conversations. And he promised to take me shopping and help me get a heater and a stove. But I still had no insulation or a refrigerator or a bed, and to me, none of it mattered. Now I had camped and made 2 new friends and was going to learn more from Bob. It was a steep learning curve. Bob actually built my first bed so that I no longer had to sleep on the floor. It wasn't like now where we have tons of books that we can read in addition to the ones Bob had put out early on. There wasn't a bunch of YouTube channels like there are now, and now there's even movies. Back then, there was blogs, and that's about it. My first RTR in 2016, there were a little over 100 people, and I was overwhelmed at the enormity of the crowd. Because up until then, it had been just Bob and I camping out in remote wilderness areas, and I had begun to heal. My TB episodes were becoming less and less, even in just that few short months. And I had no stress in my life, no stress in my van because I didn't have any systems that I had to worry about. And there was no noise. Weeks on end would go by of me doing nothing but sitting and walking in nature. And I began to notice that I was beginning to remember things. I was beginning to remember things that I thought I didn't even know I knew how to do. And I began to be able to think. It was rare that I had nosebleeds and ear bleeds. They certainly weren't happening daily like they had been for years. There were some exceptions. One time Bob and I were camped outside of Sedona, Arizona in the Red Rocks. And this Jeep tour company kept coming by and dropping people off in my camp. Bob was parked, I would say from me to that flagpole down the hill a little bit. So they didn't really go over and bother him. But they were belligerent, they were derogatory, they wanted to take pictures of my van, they wanted to go inside my van. Sometimes they didn't ask, sometimes they just did it. Finally, I told Bob what had been happening, and one day he came up and confronted them, and that nonsense stopped. But the confrontation put me in a TBI episode that knocked me out for days, and I have no memory of those days. But Bob went down the road, and I got someone named KINDLE that is still a good friend of mine, and she would come and take care of me. They would tell me about this later because, again, I had no memory of it. But that's the way of this life. You can be solo, but it also lends its way to community. You can be truly connected with people that are usually kind. I have more friends today, a lot of them are here, good friends, close friends, more than I ever dreamed of. When I moved into my van, most of my family disowned me, and that's their story to tell. I can tell you that I think they were embarrassed because I was now living in a van down by the river. I was proud of it, yes. Absolutely. Plus, I was no longer this big career person that would help them out from time to time. For a long time, I was devastated by that loss. These are people that I'd known my whole life. It was my family. But I've been able to, since then, let them go in peace, and I send them virtual love. To me, it is their loss that they don't get to be on this rich journey with me and get to meet the beautiful people that I do out here. I have other family members that I am still close to this day that do share in that journey. My cousins Cindy and Mike, and one of my sisters and my nieces. And I've made a lot of family out here. My late friend R.T. Miles always said, remember, wherever you go, there you are. I will tell you that being a nomad not only saved my life, it gave me a life, and it made me a better person, like I said earlier. When you strip away all the noise and clutter of a busy life, you're left with just yourself. It's impossible to blame others for your character defects. As my cognitive abilities improved, I realized my character defects were alive and well. They hadn't gone anywhere. Today, I'm a better friend, a better partner, and I am a kinder, gentler version of the self that started this journey, even from a few years ago and even from last year. You can create busyness out here, you guys, or you can take the opportunity to learn what is important to you and who you really want to be. If there are things you want to change, I recommend changing them sooner than later, and I say that from experience. Because no matter how big your rig is, those four walls can start closing in on you really fast if you're unhappy with yourself. My last huge TBI episode that I've had, knock on wood, so far was in 2022. It shut me down in bed for days, and again, I have no memory of those days, but I had friends that helped me. What caused it was I was around too many generators for too long, plus I had gone through an emotional upheaval. But I knew what to do. I fled to remote wilderness, and I waited until it passed. Then I began working on me and creating a world I can live in. I pay very close attention to how I live on the daily. I am ferocious about protecting what I let in and who I let in and what I put out in the universe. I still have minor TBI episodes. After all, I still have scar tissue, and I don't know how much it has built up because I refuse to go back in the hospital and have the test done. I'm just not going there. My sister came, sorry, the wind is blowing my hair. I keep like rubbing my face. My sister came to visit me recently, and we were talking about how improved I am. I used to try to go to restaurants with her, probably not too long after I was out of TBI rehab, and I would inevitably have major nosebleeds right there in the restaurant. So I got to where I didn't even try to go out in public anymore, let alone do something like this and talking to you guys today from the main stage. Then in 2019, at the Van Build in Parker, Arizona, I got brave. I wore my Princess Leia headset. Can y'all see how it looks like Princess Leia? And I went to hear music and dance. I had not been able to do that since I had had the initial brain injury, let alone 10 years later, the brain surgery. I am blessed. And I do live a limited life, but it's a rich and a full life. and I owe it all to being a nomad these last 10 years. For a while, I was on a drug that really helped. It is mainly given for Alzheimer's and dementia, and it's experimental for TBI patients. It worked wonders for me, but I began to have stomach bleeds this last year, and I can no longer take it. You meet life on life's terms, right? We all have to do that. We accept it and we make the best of it. If another drug comes on the market that I can try and that might help, I will. But in the meantime, I'm too blessed to focus on anything but the positive. This way of life also gave me simplicity. It's liberating, right? You guys know. And it gave me community. You can be involved and as entrenched with people as much as you want to, or you can be like me and retreat anytime you need to remote wilderness and not see another living soul. The quiet of nature at all levels for me is beautiful and healing, and nomads get to connect with that on an ongoing basis at a level most don't ever get to. Adapting with nature and life on the road has made me more resilient in every aspect of my life. Originally, 10 years ago, I came out on the road thinking that I was here until I died. And then after a few months, I began to realize that I was living. Then I began writing. I still can't read. I'm reading my cue cards, so I can string words together, but I don't have the comprehension ability to remember after 2 or 3 paragraphs what I just read. Not even with my own books. I can't go back and read them and recall what I just read. I used to teach science, but I can't do math today. My dear friend and traveling partner, Jana, also known as Frugal RV Gal. Yeah, y'all give her a hand. There you go. That's for you, Frugal. She attends my book signings, takes care of the money, the record keeping, and the bookkeeping, and makes every step I've made. We started traveling together in 2021, and it has made all the difference for me again. Like I said, I've written 10 books, and I've been out here 10 years, but I didn't start writing until about 3 years ago. Thank you, Linda. Love you. I'm writing the 11th one already, and I have 3 more outlined and ready to go. I would never have done any of this if I had settled for being in assisted living. When I have episodes, there is such great comfort in the simplicity of my rig and great love from the people in my life. I continue to heal from the quiet of nature. I was 5 years in that cargo van named Fancy Free, and in 2020, I bought a 23-foot vintage Class C, and I named her Phoenix. I've been on Bob's channel several times, and you can see those various videos. He did an interview with me early on in my van, and then last year he came out and did a tour and interview of Phoenix. So check that out on his channel. But on my channel, I did an interview with Bob several years ago, and I asked him in that interview, how green was I when we first met? And he was kind, but he snickered, and he said, doesn't get much greener. I would have to agree with that. Pulitzer Prize winner Mary Oliver writes, tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? So I'm asking you, what will you let this nomad life do for you? The possibilities, the road itself, are limitless. The brain is amazing. Like I said, I can write, but I can't read. My degree was in biology, and I can't do math. But it is what it is, and it's a good life. In TBI rehab, there were slogans everywhere, all over all the walls, but I latched on to 3 of them. KOKO, NMW, ODAT. Keep on keeping on, no matter what, one day at a time. And I even wrote a trilogy that is the KOKO trilogy, and those are the 3 titles of those books. Whether you are already on the road, part-time or full-time, or dreaming of it one day, don't ever, ever give up. I'm going to wrap up now, but I have a favor to ask. When I finish, I'll answer questions, but if you can and if you're willing, please stay seated during the questions, because if there's a lot of movement, I might not be able to answer. And I know you guys are cold and the wind is blowing, so we'll try to make it fast. After the questions, I'll tell you how you can win one of the 10 paperbacks today. And don't forget to get your Kindle free until midnight. Being a nomad really did save my life. It can be a beautiful way to live for anyone who wants it badly enough. And it really did save my life. I think I just repeated that, but it bears repeating. If no one has told you yet today, please know that you are a beautiful being and you are loved. I love you. I figure if people in this world can hate today for no reason, I can love just because I want to, and the world can always use more love. Thank you all.